Congratulations, Annapolis. I cannot wait to go to the new Kenneth R. Dunn Truxton Park Pool. This is a wonderful addition to our community and will serve as a place for many happy memories for Annapolitans for years to come. Congratulations, stay safe, and I'll see you at the pool.
Congratulations on the opening of the new Truxton Park Pool.
Go! So excited about the Truxton pool opening up. I got my floaters on and everything. I can't wait to swim. Yay!
The special meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, July 27th will be called to order at 7:08, the 7:07. At this time, would everyone stay seated for Alderman Tierney's invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought as we approached our August recess that this was an appropriate thing to say. May we who are merely inconvenienced remember those whose lives are at stake. May we who have no risk factors remember those most vulnerable. May we who have the luxury of working from home remember those who must choose between preserving their health or making their rent. May we who have to cancel our trips remember those that have no place to go. May we who settle in for a quarantine at home remember those who have no home. And finally, during this time, when we cannot physically wrap our arms around each other, let us yet find ways to show care, love, and respect for each other and our neighbors. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States
of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Here.
Alderman Tierney?
Here.
Alderman Payon?
Here.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Here.
Alderman Finlayson?
Present.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Here.
Alderman Gay?
Here.
Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present.
So before we start, I have something special to do. The city staff have been working overtime, and I want to acknowledge all of their work. Specifically tonight, I'd like to thank Stephen Rice and Hope Stewart of our Office of Economic Development, our events coordinator, Felicia Nolan, and civil engineer Sam Bryce from the Department of Public Works. These four have worked tirelessly on our recovery zones, making changes, amending those well thought out plans every couple of days, it seems. They ensure the safety of the public by figuring out how to navigate, police and fire into the zones, figuring out the barricades and parking detours and signage. It's a lot of I's to dot and a lot of T's to cross. They make it all look simple to the public, but I see all the work that goes into it, and I know that it is anything but easy. Outside of city staff, I'd also like to recognize two people who have selflessly volunteered their time for the Small Business Recovery Task Force. And our co-chair, Dick Franyo. Thank you, Dick, for all you have done to help businesses figure this out and connecting them to resources and information and each other. And Eileen Fogarty, who has stepped in to take complaints and arbitrate solutions among businesses in downtown. You were called into tonight's meeting because we have prepared City Council citations for you to show that we appreciate your work. And I will read one of these right now. Thank you. On behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we offer this City Council citation for your work on behalf of the business community, non-profits, the residents of Annapolis. Since the pandemic started and the shutdown began, the City of Annapolis team has worked tirelessly to create curbside chats so that we could listen to businesses, push out resource information, form the Small Business Recovery Task Force, conduct seminars and workshops to help with grants and small business loans, hold industry-specific webinars on the process of reopening, and lastly, establish and refine recovery zones. We want your work to be recognized and to make sure you know that you are greatly appreciated. Thank you for your service to our city. Let's have a little round of applause for this, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to I think these guys just came on the screen. So it is Dick Franyo. If you're out there, you guys down there? I'm looking out, I see Stephen Rice and Hope Stewart and Sam Bryce and Felicia. I'm looking for. Oh, there you are. Okay, cool. All right. Well, you just got a piece of paper. Thank you. No, we really appreciate everything you have done. And I know how hard you have all worked. So please, we really want to thank you. Alderman Pound wants to say something.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, Hope Stewart is the newest member of the Annapolis Rotary Club.
Yay.
On top of everything else. Come on, Hope, you can smile on that.
So in addition, we have also citations for every member of the Small Business Recovery Task Force. So it's around about 50 people that gave their expertise. So I want to thank them for their volunteer service, and please check the mail because your certifications are going to be in your mailbox. Thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So I need a motion to amend the agenda if we have amendments coming up, please. Alderman Rodriguez has his hand up. Motion to amend.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add CA 120 and O 2020, please.
Okay, thank you. Any other amendments to the agenda? I feel like there are.
What are those? Those are the deputy city manager reorg charter amendment and ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Savage.
I have just a question for the city attorney or Regina. I don't know who, but so when we amend the agenda like this, in this case, you're proposing to add 2 pieces of legislation on legislative action. Is that do we need to just take one vote on approving the agenda, or is it a vote per change, per amendment to the agenda?
This is new territory, so I'm going to let Mike walk us through it. Thank you.
Yeah, if you're amending the agenda to add this to the consent calendar, it just goes, right, on the consent calendar because that's already there. If you're amending to add it to a legislative action section where you're going to talk about it, discuss it, or amend it, we have to add the legislative action section to the agenda because it does not now exist. So that would have to be the other vote, to add a legislative action section and to put these items there.
And so has Alderman Rodriguez followed the right process by doing what he just did?
Well, he moved to amend, so we just need a motion to probably restate the motion to add in a legislative action section, vote for that first, and then vote to put this and other things there.
And so it will cover other things when we get to them, is that right?
If it's desirable to put other things there, yes.
Okay. Alderman Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And is this the time to request anything off of the consent calendar, or no? Right.
Well, I understand that if you pull it off the consent calendar, it's going to automatically go to September. If that's what you want, you can do that now, but it's going to automatically go to the September agenda. So that's why I said, if you want to have a legislative section, do that first. Get the second, then all the other motions to move things onto that section can happen. And those things will be heard today in that legislative action section of the agenda.
You clear on that, Alderman Rodriguez?
So that motion should come first. So
the motion to add a legislative action section.
Yes. So
okay,
second.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And are you seconding that, Alderman Savage?
Yeah.
So we'll need a vote for that, Mr. Mayor, first.
Well,
can we have discussion? We got discussion, yep. Yeah. Alderman Arnett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So here we are. We changed the legislation, and the very first meeting out of the box, we're obviating the very purpose for the legislation, which is to make this a public hearing, non-legislative session. I just don't understand the council, and I think this is not a good start, and I certainly do not support the motion.
Alderman Gay?
Did it get a second? Because I'm just going to second it.
Yeah, you got a second, Alderman Savage, yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, if it's still on discussion, I'm just saying I didn't vote for this again, making that clear.
Okay.
Say that again, Alderman Gay, I'm sorry.
For this change to the, Alderman Arnett's point in regards to changing the format of the meeting, I'm saying I was opposed to it in the beginning for this reason.
But we had a majority vote.
Alderman Savage?
Yeah, I mean, just to say, I mean, the ordinance that changed the setup did come from me, but as Alderman Arnett said, we all agreed to it. But the point is, I think the whole, even past, I think, and I think this is what the city attorney said previously, is like, it just sets our standards moving forward, but we can move away from that standard if we do have the flexibility, which is what we're Alderman Rodriguez and what I seconded tonight, to give us some of that flexibility if we need to take up legislation. But I still do agree with the premise of the original legislation, which is to have meetings focused on various aspects of our duties as legislators. But you know, again, I just feel like we again also at times need flexibility.
Thank you. Anyone else have their hand up? Alderman Finlayson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for City Attorney Wiles. If we pass this motion to add a legislative item, does that impact the consent calendar?
Only if you want it to, doesn't have to, because you got to do two things. You have to add a legislative action section. That legislative action section remains empty until you put things in it through another council motion and second council vote.
So we could move something from the consent calendar and it would go tonight on the legislative session and not go to the first meeting in September.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Tierney?
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm going to need an instruction sheet on this formatting. So if I understand it correct, I know what the motion is on the floor, the charter amendment, but can I just ask a sidebar question here? Is the consent calendar used in this meeting as sort of a placeholder for legislation, so then we choose to act on it? Is that the intent of grouping everything in the consent calendar?
No, the consent calendar is the only place
only place
to put it.
Okay, so it doesn't. That's all you're doing. You're just I understand that. It's just the only place to put it.
Only place to put it.
Alderman Payon had his hand up. Then Alderman Arnett. No microphone.
If I ask to have something removed from the consent calendar, how do I know if it's going to be legislative action will take place tonight or in September?
Because you can move to put things into that section that you created, or once you not move, I'm sorry, because we have created a legislative action section, anything that's requested to be moved from the consent calendar goes tonight in that legislative action section that has been created. That'll be automatic, just like you did in the old times, way back long ago.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is really clear as mud. I mean, I have no idea what nothing wrong with your answer, but I just don't understand for sure what any of this stuff is. If there's anybody here who does, I invite you to come forward.
Alderman Annette?
So, a point of order, I believe. Alderman Tierney said that what's up for a vote now is adding the charter amendment and the ordinance. I don't believe that's what's up for a vote. I believe what's up for a vote now is to create a legislative section of the agenda.
Yes.
And I want to, Regina, microphone.
And 2020. He has a second to move those onto the agenda.
My interpretation of that is it was out of order because you can't move something to an agenda that does not exist. You've got to do it in order. Right now, the motion that is in order and is before you is, do you want to create another legislative action section for tonight's meeting where it currently does not exist? So that's your discussion. To do anything before you do that is of no moment, does not exist until you do this first.
That's why we were asking the process. So Alderman Rodriguez, that's basically what you're moving, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess kind of modify my motion then.
No, you've got a motion in a second for adding a legislative action section.
Okay.
That is the motion that is on the floor. It is the proper motion at this point.
Okay. And this is all a learning process. Thank you everyone for your patience.
And sorry,
Alderman Rodriguez.
One more question. And so later on, when the consent calendar comes up, even if we take something out, we're able to postpone, for example, something from the consent calendar for instead of it automatically going into the legislative action section for tonight?
Well, I would maintain that if you take something off the consent calendar, once the legislative action section has been created, it automatically moves into that section, unless you move that it goes somewhere else.
Okay.
Tabled or moved till the next first meeting where legislative actions are supposed to happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. No more discussion. We have a first and a second. All those in favor with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
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 Okay. So the ayes have it, right?
Now you have an opportunity to add things into this piece here that you created in the agenda called legislative action.
So Alderman Rodriguez, you have to add that. Is that right, Mr. City Attorney?
Correct.
Okay, so
Thank
it's
you.
a two-step process. I got it.
Until we get it right, we got to slow walk it. Sorry.
Thank you.
You can just add it. It doesn't take a vote. Anybody can add stuff. That doesn't take a vote, right?
Well, no, because is this one on the consent agenda? This wasn't on the agenda at all. So now we have to actually add this.
A move to add CA 120 and O 2020 to the legislative action section of the agenda.
Get a second. Alderman Gay.
No, I'm putting my hand up for the vote.
Oh.
Well, I think we can have some discussion.
We're discussion, yeah. I'm not closing it. I saw a hand. Alderman Annette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I resist this motion strenuously. I think that it is an abuse of the public trust. In fact, I don't even know, and we don't have in our agenda, what is the final status of the charter amendment. There is a debate going on about whether the deputy city manager would have the right to review and approve. We don't have any of that information before us, and clearly none of the public was aware that this vote was coming up, nor do they have that information in front of them. And I do not see, well, I think that both of these pieces of legislation will be passed in proper course. I don't see the rush, and I strenuously object on behalf of at least my constituents putting this on unannounced with no ability for anyone to even review it, including us. I have to go find what it is we're talking about. What is the final status of the charter amendment? Because there is a critical element that the last I knew was still being debated, and including over the weekend with colleagues. And I think this is really very, very bad way to do business, and particularly when I think that there's not a rush to do this. When we rush legislation, that's when we make mistakes. And this is just not in order to do this at this point.
It has been through committees. Maybe we should, I thought it passed through committees, so maybe Alderman Savage can clarify for us.
Yeah, I mean, just respectfully, Alderman, I know you are one of the co-sponsors on this, but at least from my point of view, this has already been through the public hearing, public comment period's closed. All the committees have reviewed this legislation over the past few months, and the amendments coming from the committees have been online for a while, especially for some of the committees. So, yeah, you're right. There's no rush on this, but again, it's already been through the process. I don't see the harm in trying to get something passed before our legislative break if it's already pretty much ready to go.
So let me ask you, Alderman Savage, is Amendment 10 from Environmental Matters Committee on? Is that in? Is if we vote on this, is Amendment 10 in or not in?
Well, the amendments would need to still be discussed and voted on, but that's all listed on Legistar. You'll see all of the amendments that are proposed that came from the committee, and including the one that you proposed in the committee. Some of the committees, actually, I think all of them supported the ones that reviewed it about the review authority. So that's in there,
so,
as well as the one.
But it is not on the agenda. It's not on our agenda. I'm going back to the agenda for the rules in city government. And it looks to me like the rules in city government adopted the Environmental Matters Committee amendments 9 and 10. Is that the status of this? Are those amendments in play?
All the amendments are in play. They're all whatever's listed in Legistar, which is all the committee amendments, all the amendments from individuals. Those are all listed, and it's not getting added to consent. So those all have to be discussed and voted upon.
And of course, all of our constituents who are watching this can just readily find that and understand what's going on. I don't believe that's the case. And that's why I think this is an egregious action to take. And you and I discussed this over the weekend. I thought we had an understanding, but apparently not.
Alderman Payne.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, this is a disgraceful attempt to shove some legislation through for God only knows why. I mean, the sponsor of this just spoke and could not give a single even remotely decent reason for why this has to go tonight. This is legislation that we don't even have a copy of it in front of us right now. I mean, we can find it here, we can find it there. Well, maybe we can, but this is crazy. This is absolutely not the thing to do. Our constituents have no clue what it is I think, that we're talking about right now. Hopefully those of us on the council that have to vote on it do remember what it's about. I do. I don't remember every single detail, and I wish like hell I had it in front of me right now if I'm going to vote on it. I think I don't understand the logic. I don't know why it has to come up for a vote tonight. As a matter of fact, it doesn't have to come up for a vote tonight. Plain and simple. I'm mystified and I'm disappointed that this type of an attempt at an end run, and that's what it is, for God knows what reason, because as far as I know, there's a pretty good chance this is going to pass no matter when it comes up. But this is not the way to do it. This is not a good form of democracy. I'm surprised and disappointed that we're even spending time talking on doing something like this without a really, really good reason. And not only is there not a really, really good reason, we haven't been presented with any reason why we ought to do this. Thank you.
I think it's been through committees, Alderman Byrne, and it's been discussed for a long, long time. Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I have a question for Mr. Lyles. This legislation automatically goes on the legislative section if there is a request, or does it require a vote?
It requires a vote, which is what you're in now. You're in the discussion on this motion.
Okay, I just wanted clarification because the community has no idea what we're doing. I think this speaks to my concern about this legislation, period. It has been manipulating our city policies, procedures, and our organization from day one. And actually it goes, and this isn't for Mr. Lyles, this is for the council and the mayor, part of the council. The process that's being used is inappropriate. We could all have been notified today that this was going to be brought to the floor this evening, but it was a deliberate attempt to keep us in the dark. You know, at some other point, I hope I have an opportunity to give those of you who have not been here long enough to know the history behind this and the department that we had that was deliberately eliminated, along with the people in that department, because they didn't agree with certain members of the community. And then all of a sudden we recreate the department, but we put different people in charge. And now we're elevating this department again above even public safety. So this is a manipulation of our process. And we should all be ashamed of sitting back and allowing anyone to lead us down this path. It is a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you for your opinion, Alderwoman Finlayson.
With history, I might add.
So this is Director Gerald's, City Manager Gerald's initiative. So we have our own opinions on this. Alderman Gay was next.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. You know, I think that at some point, when we have these meetings due to the circumstances and us not having staff, it also takes some responsibility of the individual council person to prepare beforehand for meetings. If we were in the council chambers, the same thing could have happened on the floor and someone would have brought you a printed version of this legislation. What harm is it doing you and logging into your laptop, computer, cell phone, whatever, pulling it up and printing it or pulling it up in front of you? I think to bash the staff for not having the legislation for us, you know, that's a low blow, one. And two, why do we keep discrediting our voters and our citizens as if they have no understanding of how the legislative process works? Each of my colleagues just spoke to how we're blindsiding our constituencies and how we're pulling the bag over their eyes and all. No, we're not. We're taking simple legislative action, what's given to us in the code, and we're making recommendations on it. I don't know how long, I don't know the history of the council and how, you know, people who have been here for some time have done so. But since the beginning, I've expressed concern at how slow the legislative process is, and how some of my colleagues love to slow it down even further. I think that in order for our city to be in the place that we want it to be in, at some point we have to pass legislation. At some point we have to get past the discussion and vote on things. And, to have legislation in committees where committees have recommended favorably to the council, where there has been discussion amongst the committee, where there's been discussion amongst the full council, where there's been individual discussion outside of council meetings via phone call, text message, email, whatsoever, and then to come here and act like no one has ever seen the bill, like no one knows anything that's going on now. It's funny. It's hilarious. And I can't, we can get past this, and I think we're better. And we owe our constituents better to vote on things and do what they actually sent us here to do.
Alderman Payon has his hand up.
Thank you. I'm glad that my colleague finds humor in the rights of our constituents being stomped on by a minority of legislators here. There is nothing in tonight's agenda that indicates that this is going to be voted on. You say we talked about this and we talked about this. Frankly, I haven't talked about this particular legislation in at least a month with anybody on the council. I've had the budget to be concerned with and other top legislation besides this. This has been on the back burner for any number of us. I certainly was very up on the legislation, and I certainly knew pretty much everything that I thought there was to know about it a month or two ago, but I haven't seen it since, because nobody, including people that I've talked to numerous times about other legislation, has brought it to my attention that they planned on raising this tonight out of the blue. The solution, the problem of moving legislation along may very well exist. And I don't necessarily blame you or disagree with you about that. But to take this so far out of order, without notice, without any type of ability for anyone to speak on it tonight or prepare anything ahead of time tonight, except those that have plotted to do this, perform this miscarriage of justice, is completely unfair and uncalled for. I don't even know why we're doing this tonight. It's not like, well, gee, there's a grant we need to get by the 15th of August, or we need to take care of this before our legislative break. I mean, nobody's saying that. The only thing I've heard is, well, there really is no good reason, but it's been to committee, and therefore we ought to vote on it tonight. That's no reason. Okay? That is no reason. And my constituents are not going to want to hear that, we're running around voting on whatever the heck we want to on any given meeting, on any given night. That's unfair. I think it's outrageous. Thank you.
So Alderman Savage had his hand up, then Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel like folks need to take a step back here and calm down, at least calm the rhetoric and hyperbole down. Frankly, I'm quite insulted by some of you and some of your insinuations. There's nothing myself or anybody here is trying to push. I mean, I'm hearing things like stomping on the rights of constituents, conspiracies about destroying the environmental department, plotting to do this and that, throwing it out of the blue to the council, all these plots. I mean, come on. This is something that's been through the process, folks, for months. It's been through nearly all of our committees. This is something where it went through the final committee after, it's been through so much earlier, but it went through the final committee, I think, last week with the Rules in Government. And it got through a bit too late to get it on the agenda for the council. The agenda was already sent out. So, in terms of this is not, surprising anybody. It's been through the process. If you've been following the committees, and Alderman Payon, you've been to one of the committees and you even spoke about this. So I was hoping at least at the time you would have read everything if you're speaking on it at the committee. But it's certainly not my intention. I don't think it's anybody else's intention. Please, I didn't interrupt you, Alderman. Please, again, give me the respect.
You're right.
I feel like you're not giving any of us the respect here.
You're right.
But so in that sense, I can respect Alderman Arnett's concerns. He was commenting about the process, but a lot of you have made it personal, and you're even attacking like my legislation as the chief sponsor. I'm like, no, this came from the city manager who came up with a proposal and presented it to the mayor and I, because we competing proposals for environmental moving forward reorganization. He convinced me and obviously convinced the mayor. So we're moving forward with this kind of compromise to come together. This has been through so many committees. But hey, if folks want to take more time, I can respect that. But please, let's just not just launch these insinuations against each other, but also even against the city manager. It's just not appropriate.
Alderman Gay had his hand up, then Alderman Tierney, then Alderwoman Finlayson.
I'll allow Alderwoman Tierney to speak before me because I think she had her hand up first. I'll go after her.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Alderman Gay. I think this is more of a procedural question. Two issues. When this happens, who is the gatekeeper at that point to say, whoa, that legislation is not ready? Because that seems to be the leap of faith we're taking when we accept this to go into the legislative action bucket. Who is that person that would say that would say this legislation is okay to do that? Because I would know otherwise. Has it gone through all the committees? That seems to be. I know that, but I can see where others may not know that. Which brings me to the other point: is what's missing from this is, which makes it seem weird, is the explanation on why. And I heard some from my colleague Alderman Savage, but a clear reasoning on, hey, it's gone through committees. We want to get this done before our August break. I have no problem hearing that. Somebody's not telling me or the public why we're taking it this route, and I think that would be very helpful.
So let's get Mike Lyles back on. First of all, I believe there'll be amendments to this, right, Mr. Lyles? And so when that happens, this is going to get pushed out again. Am I right on that, Mr. City Attorney?
I have Jacqueline on the line. She's got a list of amendments potentially that might come before you should the sponsors wish to put those on the agenda tonight, some of which have obligations to go certain places.
So we are trying to move the process forward. There is amendments that will happen that will move this through to September. This isn't the final vote, but this is the sort of thing that takes, am I correct, Mr. Lyles?
How would we know?
I think
maybe not.
I know that there are a number of amendments, and we really have to take them one at a time, sir. I don't remember them all. There is a list, and we have the list, but they have to be put on one at a time before we can determine. Before I can answer.
Arnett, you know about the amendments. You've discussed them with Alderman Savage, right?
I know about the amendments. I happen to support, if the amendments that I think are in there, I happen to support both pieces of legislation. I profoundly do not support this process. I think it is a gross abuse of our constituents. I'm getting floods of email and text messages right now, and they're shocked and they're scrambling and they're trying to find, where do we find the amendments? It's not on the list, the legislation that is listed for this meeting. And so they're trying to find it. And I suspect in a few minutes, we're going to have emails sent to us to send us the update on all of the amendments, which once again, our constituents cannot see. The whole purpose of having a legislative session is so that there's an agenda. All of the information, including proposed amendments, are on that agenda, is published, is discussed, and the purpose for this meeting was not to be that. And we're immediately, right out of the box, perverting the very ordinance that we passed not long ago to not do this. And I think that it is fundamentally wrong. I think it's a violation of the Open Meetings Act and certainly a violation of our constituents' right to know what we're doing.
Alderman Gay.
Mr. Mayor, at what point can we take the vote? This is now 47 minutes into personal discussion and debate.
Okay, we are going to take the vote if you're okay with that. Everybody?
No.
No.
I'm still in discussion. Alderman Finlayson.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I still have the floor. I didn't get a chance to. Are there rules specific to the council in regards to like filibustering or certain procedures during our meetings? Because I think if not, there needs to be. Is that something you can speak to, Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, any member of this body can move to close debate.
Can I make a motion to close debate?
Yes, motion to close debate. You get a second? Anyone to second that? Okay, we can take another 40 minutes.
Has it been 40 minutes?
Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you.
Alderman Bowen.
Have I been recognized, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you. Just a reminder that we are policymakers and that much of what we do is negotiations. And we're not in the business of, if we don't get our way, taking our marbles and going home. It's all about continuing to work through the problem or the process, whatever it is. Some of us have short memories. I remember some time ago when we worked for the city, and probably the most egregious attack on a supervisor took place in City Hall when we had another department called DNET. So I find it somewhat interesting that now we're concerned about what others are saying when we have been in similar situations. You know, my position on this legislation stemmed from a hearing or a committee meeting that we had when we had the acting planning director and then the director of public works, Mr. Gerald. And both of them were asked about moving this position. This was not a favored choice by either of them. I listened to our supervisors because they are the professionals. But all of a sudden now things have changed, but it really hasn't. Our agenda, next issue, our agenda was approved and I believe sent out either Thursday or Friday. The Rules Committee met on Tuesday. So there was more than adequate time to get this on the agenda for this meeting. So there is no excuse or no truthful excuse about not knowing what was on the agenda and not having an opportunity to get this legislation on because there was adequate time. So, you know, we need to stop playing the games, okay? We need to be forthright with what we're doing. And if we want to change city government, fine. But let's go through the right process to do that. Thank you.
Alderman Savage has his hand up.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I'm not even going to get into some of those personal insinuations, but I do have to say, I mean, Alderwoman Finlayson, I mean, I know you're mentioning concern about and this conspiracy about dismantling the environmental Department of Neighborhood and Environmental Programs, but looking back, I have the legislation up here. I mean, you voted for that. So again, but at this point, out of respect, again, even though this is not my legislation, I'm one of the sponsors, but I'm going to withdraw my second out of respect to the other sponsor on the legislation, Alderman Arnett, because this is clearly and also to show there's no, and I'm sure Alderman Rodriguez will say the same thing, there's no nefarious plot. And I'm just insulted that a lot of you would even think that after all the deliberations we've been through this legislation. And I've heard that from Alderwoman Finlayson for the past 3 years. And I don't know what it's going to take to finally convince you there's no nefarious plot here. I mean, if you're saying that about me, you're essentially saying that about the city manager because this is his proposal.
Thank you for that, Alderman Savage. I mean, I think, you think there's some conspiracy here. There is no conspiracy. We're trying to get the job done. Some people like to take a lot of time to get things done, and this has taken a long, long time. Mark is leaving for Portland, and, this is some things are on his watch. So we will, Mr. City Attorney, we'll just pull back from this without a second. Is that right?
I'm looking it up right now, sir. Just trying to make sure. Yes. Okay. So we'll need another second.
Second.
Okay.
I'm seconding the withdrawal, right?
Yeah.
The withdrawal.
I want to say I appreciate it. I am strongly in favor of this legislation. That is not my issue. My issue, again, and I appreciate your gesture, Alderman Savage, is that we do this so that we are making sure that everyone in the community knows what we're doing, has a chance to look at it, has a chance to write in comments. You and I send out blast emails to our constituent. We take input from them. And this was not in my blast email. There was no opportunity for input. And so, again, I very much appreciate your gesture. And I can assure you when it does come up for a vote, you will have my vote on this. I'm a co-sponsor. And I agreed with every single solitary amendment that I've seen. There's no question that this has gone thoroughly through the process. It is tonight's process that I'm having a great deal of angst about. So again, I appreciate your gesture.
So, Mr. Mayor, you'll need a second now on the motion to add CA 120 and O 2020 because the motion lacks a second.
But if it doesn't get a second, does it die or no?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no second, I believe, unless that's Alderman Payone's hand up for a second.
No, actually, I wanted to also thank my colleague from Ward 6 for withdrawing this. I think you really did the right thing. And it may be easy for Ross to say, but while I'm pretty sure you have my support on this, I don't think you would have had it tonight. So you may be gaining a vote. And simply because, not out of spite or anger, but I want to know what I'm voting on, and I want to have it, right here, right there. That's me. If there's any question or doubt of what's in a bill, I'm not going to vote for it. And you did the right thing for many reasons. Thank you.
So can you just give us a snapshot of where we are, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, sir. You're now at the motion to approve the agenda. There is no motion to approve an amended agenda, just a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Okay. Alderman Gay?
Yeah, so I would like to make a motion to add O3919 to legislative actions portion of the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favour, with a show of hands, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, can you repeat the motion?
Adding 03919 to the legislative action section of the agenda.
Okay.
A point of order, Mr. City Attorney. It is on the consent calendar. Is this vote an automatic withdrawal of it from the consent calendar?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So we'll take that vote again with a show of hands. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay.
Now you need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Could I get a motion? Thank you. Regina?
We had a message from Susie that DeWine wanted to make a presentation, and that needs to be added at the approval of the agenda also.
Yeah, that was my second motion, is to request to speak under petitions and reports, and it'll literally take a minute since we've gone this far into this discussion.
We're in an hour and I haven't even flipped a page, so no problem.
Point of information, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Alderman Annette.
We will still get to the consent calendar and have opportunity to withdraw other items from the consent calendar?
Mr. Lyles?
Yes. All right, thank you.
So do you have a motion, Alderman Gay, on that second piece, or is that all encompassing?
Yeah, I have a motion on the second piece as well.
We need to vote on the motion on the floor.
Well, that was the motion on the floor. We voted on the motion for 03919 already.
You're right. Sorry.
You need
Can
a
I
second.
get a second, please? Second for Alderman Gay, please. Alderman Savage is a second for him speaking, or whatever it was. All those in favour say aye. Show of hands. Aye.
Aye.
All right. So now I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended, or have we done that?
No, you need to do that now.
Okay. A motion to approve the agenda as amended. Thank you. A second from Alderman Gay. All those in favour say aye with a show of hands. Aye. All right. What, do I need a roll call, do we, Madam City Clerk?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes. Okay. Let me see. I think you have a petitions, reports, and communications is the next item on the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So
starting with update from the mayor.
Okay, sure. And then Alderman Gay, you'll be after me. Is that okay? I'm the Black Lives Matter. Thank you. So good evening. This is our last meeting before we head into our August break, which is mandated by City Code. We have a full docket tonight, and you can tell that already. That doesn't mean the city is on vacation. All city services continue to be delivered. The breaking council meeting does give some city staff the opportunity to take a break, and some might use this opportunity to have some vacation time, including me. I want to thank Alderwoman Pendell Charles for her service as acting mayor starting tomorrow. I would like to draw your attention to an amazing event that was held this morning, the virtual ribbon cutting of the Truxton Park pool. We are so pleased to bring this amenity online for residents, especially during a pandemic when recreation and being outdoors is more important than ever. If you didn't get to see the ribbon cutting live, please go to facebook.com/City of Annapolis or youtube.com/City of Annapolis to view the video. You'll be impressed with this $4 million asset that is going to be a place where a lot of summer memories are made. Thank you to everyone who made it possible. As we go into our August break, I want to remind residents that we are doing what we can to keep you safe, but you have to do your part. This is the time that we need to see ourselves as a team. Please wear your mask when you're out and about. It helps to slow the spread. Please practice physical distancing. Please wash your hands frequently. If you come into a recovery zone, don't gather or bunch up together, even if you're outdoors. A street party can be a reason for the health department to shut us down. If the health department shuts businesses down, or we have to go back into a lockdown, many of our small businesses won't survive. It's not a question of economy or public health. If we don't practice the public health, we won't have businesses or an economy to protect. Please, as your city government, we are asking you to be responsible in your personal actions. This is hard, this is difficult, but we are a community of smart people. Let's work together to slow the spread and keep Annapolis open. Thank you so much. Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is reports by committees.
And I'll go swing straight to Alderman Gay.
Thank you, and I will be very quick. I just wanted to kind of give an update and some thanks as we head into the August recess in regards to the efforts made with our youth and activists and volunteers and just citizens in general who participated in the protests and demonstrations that we've done over the course of the last 3 and 4 months. Obviously, first thanking the police department for their work, protecting us, helping block the streets, helping keep the flow of traffic, and just really keeping things positive. I think the reason that we got together to kind of promote these protests and demonstrations was because we understood obviously what was taking place in our nation, but we also wanted to make sure that our community was safe while understanding it and putting out that message. So I think that was extremely important. And as we move forward and get into the August recess and come out through September, along with young people in our community, activists, Alderman Savage, Alderman Rodriguez, I look forward to putting together legislation that can really help us on the other side with some of the changes we hope to see in our communities, through this whole, just through all of these displays of protest and really speaking to the needs of what some of the young people would like to see happen. So I really look forward to that. And then secondly, just in regards to Black Lives Matter and some of what's taking place in our communities, the messaging of that can be so controversial. And I think that when we see upticks in violent crimes in our communities, it sometimes clouds what the true intent of that is. And I think sometimes we overlook in our own communities how important it is for us to realize, too, that Black Lives Matter. And so with some of the recent shootings and deaths, in particular in my ward, and the uptick of violent crime, I just want to take the time to let our citizens know how important it is to remember that when engaging in any of that violent behavior, and how important it is to realize that it slows down the movement as a whole. When we act chaotic, when we break the rules, when we create unsafe living conditions for our neighbors, they don't take us serious. Then when we turn around and ask for things at council meetings or ask for changes within our county. So if we want those things, I think it's critically important that we all get on the same page and realizing the value within ourselves first and realizing the value within our communities and how important it is that we uplift each other. And, just understanding that, you are important, I think that's at the core of all of this is that people are just so hopeless right now with so much going on. So just understanding that you're important, understanding that we are here to assist and help move some things forward. So I really look forward to working with my colleagues over the August break to come back with some improvements, not just in police reform, but just in social changes as a whole in our community. So thank you guys for allowing me to take the time to speak directly to my constituents. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Alderman Gay. Important words. Anybody else with petitions or reports? Okay. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is comments by the general public.
So today we were premiering our first comments by the public. We had one person signed up, but that person was a no-show. So they will have the opportunity to do that again. I was looking forward to seeing this in action for the first time. I want to thank Julian and the team for getting us to this point, but it looks like we don't get to practice it tonight. We have written testimony, and I will read that out into the record. We have written testimony by Dallas Pace of 105 Domino Drive, Annapolis. Lisa Wilson, 601 Oaklawn Avenue, Annapolis. Charles Parker, 141 West Street, Annapolis. Willie Ziegler, 327 Windell Avenue, Annapolis. Pearl Green, Ward 3, no address. Mark Lloyd, 207 Gross Avenue, Annapolis. Jane Lawrence, we all know where Jane lives, but she didn't leave an address either. Sharon Henry, 1951 Forest Drive. And that is all the people who've submitted written testimony. We thank you all so much for that. Alderman Savage and then Alderman Paone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to thank the administration and staff as well for getting this together. I also was looking forward to hearing the public's comments. I thought I'd see a flood of Eastport residents, but I guess they don't want to do it unless they can come wave their flags so we can see it. But
Alderman Paone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We also did receive a letter from Rebecca Brenia, who is the president of the West Annapolis Civic Association. I sent copies around to everyone. It was this afternoon when I did that. Nearly all Annapolitans can agree lack of workforce housing is a problem in our city. There's plenty of housing for families who can afford thousands of dollars every month in rent or mortgage payments. And Annapolis has more federally subsidized low-income housing than most cities our size. But when it comes to housing for middle-class workers, options are sorely lacking. We applaud Alderman Gay and Alderman Rodriguez for their efforts to address this problem, but we cannot support O3919 as it is written because of unintended consequences that are likely to do more harm than good. The Planning Commission's report dated February 10th, 2020 detailed several very serious concerns with O3919, including lack of clarity, leading to difficult and uncertain implementation, inappropriate scale addressed by Amendment 2, parking questions, undesirable use as short-term rentals addressed by Amendment 3 tonight, lack of limits on number of ADUs that can be built in a given area, enforcement concerns, and lack of adequate public facility review. Notably, the commission voted 6-0 against the proposed legislation. Although several of the proposed amendments lessen the potential harm done by the ordinance, they do not address the commission's concerns that they do not change the unfortunate fact that O3919 as drafted and with its proposed amendments is not likely to result in the creation of additional units of affordable housing in the city. Building in Annapolis is expensive and time consuming. Many have described it as frustrating and exhausting. It's hard to imagine anyone taking on that work and expense unless they expected to house a family member or to make money in the high-priced Annapolis rental market. Neither of these things promotes workforce housing. Amendments 7 and 8 attempt to force affordability by capping the rent that can be charged for ADUs at a maximum of $818.40 a month. assuming 1 bedroom and the landlord paying utilities based on 80% of the 2020 HUD fair rent in Anne Arundel County. This is hundreds of dollars less than the current market rents for 1 bedroom apartments across the city. Why would anyone go to the trouble of building an apartment with such severe restrictions on the amount of rent that can be charged? Rent caps are necessary to ensure affordability, but the caps proposed in those amendments are so low that they would discourage ADUs altogether. Yet without these amendments, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to stop there, and it goes on, but everyone should have a copy of this. It ends with, at a minimum, the vote should be postponed so that effective rent controls can be studied and implemented by amendment. Surely there is a middle ground between rent that is so low it's not worth it for homeowners to build units and rent that is so high every resident is drawing up plans for an income generating apartment. Alternatively, the city may want to consider ADU ordinance that promotes intergenerational living, but with deed restrictions that prohibit or severely limit owners' ability to rent to non-family members. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Rebecca Brenia, on behalf of WACA. And thank you to my colleagues and Mr. Mayor for giving me the time to read most of that letter.
This is just testimony, so we don't have to debate it.
I want a point of order.
Alderman Gay was hand up, and then Alderman Pendell Charles.
Well, what is Waco? I'm sorry, I didn't know what he was talking about.
WACA, West Annapolis Civic Association.
Oh, okay.
Alderman Pendell Charles had a hand up.
Please remember, it's WACA, not Wacko, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You read several pieces of letters that you got regarding public testimony. I would just like to cite that 6 of those came from Ward 3 regarding 39-19. And I received many, many more. They did not come through the technical process, but I did send them off to my colleagues so they could see them. This is as a result of the Greater Parole Community Association Incorporated's letter that they sent to us in May, which I have requested and was granted permission to have this made a part of the permanent record of 3919 in Granicus. So it is there for posterity and forever. And they are a membership organization of approximately 454 members.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, we're now in the phase of public hearings. First, CA 220, City of Annapolis primary election date for the purpose of modifying date of primary election for City of Annapolis elections.
So can we invite Eileen Leahy to come onto the screen?
All right. All right. Can you see me? Let's see.
Welcome.
I guess you can hear me. I'm not sure you can see me.
Can hear you? We can't see you yet, or I can't see you yet.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and start and not hold you all up. The Board of Supervisors of Elections was asked to comment on the proposed charter amendment CA 2-20. This statement is a summary of the board's discussion concerning how this proposed change would affect the city's 2021 primary and general elections, currently scheduled to be conducted September 21st, 2021 and November 2021 respectively. The proposed change would move the primary election up by 2.5 months to July 13th, 2021. Per city code, the board's charge is to conduct safe, secure, and accessible elections for Annapolis voters to ensure their right to vote. Preparing for the city's 2 elections that occur every 4 years is an ongoing process, but one whose planning activities accelerate 12 to 16 months before the elections and officially kicks off with the start of the elections calendar. For the 2021 elections, the calendar is set to begin next week, August 3rd, 2020. And all election activities such as voter registration, candidacy requirements, and recruitment of election judges are tied to this timeline. If CA2-20 is passed, its enactment will likely take place in late November or early December. This will cause a revision of the election calendar that moves the primary election date up by, again, 2.5 months. Several aspects of the election cycle which will be affected are timelines and deadlines, again, for voter registration, absentee ballot requests, candidate filing, and campaign fund reporting. In addition, multiple notifications of the changes to constituents and voters will be required. Another consideration is the potential effect on voter turnout and recruitment of election judges. Changing the date of the primary election may have a negative effect on them, since many individuals' families go on vacation in July, and the weather locally can be very hot and humid. The board also looked at the fiscal impact of the proposed charter amendment change and found the following. Additional costs associated with communications and voters about the date change, such as printing, mailing, and signage, will be expected. Pre-election costs associated with the primary election, such as ballot printing, mailings, election, and recruitment materials, along with staffing, will move from the FY22 budget to the current FY21 budget. That is estimated to be $35,000 to $50,000 that will move into the current budget if this change occurs. The costs associated with the general elections are not expected to be affected by CA2-20, and the board anticipates that they will still be in the FY22 budget. Two factors not directly impacted by a primary election date change, but ones which could compete for resources, are COVID-19 and vote by mail. As 2021, the pandemic will have abated treatment and prevention options. However, it's still a factor, or if it is still a factor, it will need as an option the board prior to the pandemic and is under consideration for the upcoming elections. But adjustments to the election calendar and shortened planning time use less likely in 2021. And of course, if COVID-19 is still around, also impact that. Due to the many changes described, especially the potential effect on voters, multiple adjustments to the election calendar, and the fiscal impact on the FY21 budget, the Indianapolis Board of Supervisors of Elections doesn't support changing the date of the 2021 primary election as proposed by Charter Amendment 2-20. In addition, the board respectfully asks the City Council members to hold off on any charter changes and proposals affecting elections until after the 2021 elections are held, and more due diligence and evaluation can be done in a timely manner. Thank you.
Alderman Gay had his hand up. Then Alderman Savage. Then Alderman.
Thank you very much, Eileen, for coming forward and reading that letter. I think it made things much easier for me because I understand the sponsor's intent, but I do fear the unintended consequences of a decrease in voter turnout. And so would it be possible by any chance if we could get some, I don't know, proposed numbers on what percentage of a decrease in voter turnout we're looking at if this change happens? I mean, I'm sure it's really hard to track, but it could be significant, considering all the things that you mentioned, in particular that it's July and everyone's traveling.
Well, I think the only way you would be able to track it at this point is if you did move it to July. We did do some due diligence, and most of the information on moving primaries has to do with national or state elections. And usually moving a election forward, the only information I was really able to find was not as much on voter turnout, but was on that it actually benefits challengers. If you move an election forward, if you keep an election closer to the general election, it usually helps incumbents. Voter turnout hasn't been looked at quite as much because most changes with the primaries, from my reading at least, are not done based on voters, but more on candidates. But it is a good question, and it is something we don't know. But in talking with the Board of Supervisors of, talking with the State Board of Elections, they anticipate there would be actually most difficulty with getting election judges. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Alderman Savage was next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Chair Leahy, for taking the time to put some analysis into this. Regarding the timing, I can certainly understand after reading your testimony that you submitted. I read it, I think it was last week you submitted it. In terms of the difficulty that presenting this would certainly prove to the city and the Board of Supervisors if we tried to do for this election. So I certainly, again, see the point behind that. And so, however, I still would like to move this forward to have a discussion as a council to see if we'd like to do this for the next elections, the 2025 elections. And I do hope that the board will take a deeper dive into this at some point. And we can certainly talk more about when it would fit into the board's schedule. But again, my intention, it is to increase voter turnout because we the way it's currently set up, which is unique amongst other jurisdictions, and I'd certainly would like to know from the board in terms of comparisons to other jurisdictions. But with our setup, we have 6 months, if we assume March to August, to reach out to our own party during the primary, but only 1 to 1.5 months to reach out to everyone else in the general, such as the unaffiliated voters, or to even the opposite, the opposing political party or other third parties, because we can't talk to them during the primary because they can't vote in our primary. So in my mind, that really puts us at a disadvantage in terms of, because I would think if we could talk to more people, if we could talk to the unaffiliateds, we would increase turnout and increase participation in the election. But again, and it's increase in number of unaffiliateds in our elections. So that's the intention. They're kind of overlooked, the overlooked population here, the overlooked voters. And that's what I hope we'll be taking a deeper dive into. But again, I can see the wisdom in not doing it for this election. But I do think the larger discussion is important to have for next 2025.
And because of that, I think that's the reason we asked that nothing be done at this point until we get past the election. Again, the stated reason really had to do with how it affected candidates and not necessarily how it affected or promoted voters' access. And that's where the board is coming from. The July, it may be that with more discussion, moving it up, but I think July is a big concern. So if you were to move it up, it would be something probably more like May. But again, what CA 2-20 is asking for is July. And the board felt pretty strongly that that's just not a good time to be having a primary election.
You, Alderman Annette had his hand up next, and then Alderman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly support the notion of thinking this through, and I wish we had gotten the ball rolling earlier. But I don't think we have to worry because if we keep this alive and it goes to committee, we might not have agreement by 2025 anyway, so we're safe there. I do want to point out that this is something that the Charter Review Committee has opined on for the last 3 decades, and many other things regarding our elections, including syncing up with either the presidential or the gubernatorial cycle. And that commission is due to be selected. I believe we each get to appoint a member to that commission soon. And I think this is something that when we do that resolution to form the Charter Review Commission, that this is one of the things we'll want to put on their agenda to ask them to think about and come back to us with recommendations. So we will have fairly quickly an opportunity for an external body to look into all of these various nuances to the election cycle and process.
And closed.
Alderman Tierney, thank you.
Thank you. I know this is still a public hearing, but I just want to ask, this is sort of unsettling for Ms. Leahy, I believe. She hasn't spoken to me, but is there any way that we can give her some resolution on this year. I mean, she's going to go away thinking that we're still thinking about it because that's what the legislation will not be talked about until when September. I guess it's a question to the law office. I mean, she needs to know. It's very timely that she knows. Mr. Lyles?
Mr. Lyles?
Your question, ma'am?
My question is, Ms. Leahy addressed concern about this being too, because of the time and the money, that this would not happen this year. Is there any way that we can confirm that it won't happen this year, even though the legislation is still open?
But you control that, ma'am.
Do you have any suggestions?
Well, I would suggest not doing it this year because you didn't pass a budget that included.
No, that's not my point. I'm hearing from one person, Alderman Savage, that this legislation will be for the next 4 years, the next term. Ms. Leahy was addressing the upcoming election. So I just want her to walk away knowing that we're not going to do it for this election.
Right. And well, I appreciate that, but we really are asking that it not be put forward, that any discussion affecting the elections not occur until after the 2021 elections occur. Because the environment is changing. To Alderman Arnett's point, that is a possibility in terms of looking at syncing in with the state or the presidential, which again would move the primary forward. It wouldn't move it to July. Moving it forward is certainly something to consider for a variety of reasons. Moving it to July, whether it be 2021 or 2025, is a concern. I think what the board would really like to see happen is perhaps it not move forward at this point. And again, I'm speaking for the board. I'm not speaking just for myself.
Yeah, the bill is asking for the change to be made for the 21 election, not 4 years later.
I understand.
But
Alderman Savage opened up that door.
Right. I thought I heard, Alderman Savage say that.
So I know this is a public hearing, but I think it needs to be pulled. I just don't know the avenue to do that, or postpone to a date certain when we can discuss it after. Because just on paper right now, it's unsettling for her.
Alderwoman, that's up to me as the sponsor.
I know.
Just like any of our legislation. And I'm not withdrawing it at this point. I have said that I'm willing to not have an impact to the 2021 elections. But I mean, at this point, this is the public hearing. The next step would be going to committees if it doesn't get extended to public. I mean, we could always extend the public comment until September. But I kind of like to have a discussion about it in at least rules and government. And if we decide at that committee to table it, then we could certainly bring that recommendation back, or I could make that motion as the primary sponsor to withdraw it. But I think that's at least where I am at the point. I'm not opposed to withdrawing it, but that's my decision alone, I suppose, at this point in the game.
Yeah, excuse the crosstalk, but I just heard from the city attorney, that it was just for 2021. So that was the basis of my request. But it sounds like it's not, in your view, this is for future elections.
The original intention was to do 2021, but I'm trying to respect and the board of supervisors' recommendations and thoughts that this at least doesn't impact 21 election at all.
Okay, thank you. We have one written testimony. It's received from Michael Dye, 1315 Hawkins Lane, Annapolis, Maryland, and from Eileen Leahy as well, the chair representing the Board of Supervisors. Thank you. I declare the public hearing on C-2-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is O-1020, zoning code applications, written notification requirement for the purpose of increasing the distance for sending written notifications to abutting property owners for planned developments, major subdivisions, and major site design applications.
Thank you. We have no testimony received. I accept into the record the memorandum to the Annapolis City Council from the Planning Commission dated June 24th, 2020. I declare the public hearing on O-10-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is O-18-20 for public hearing, institutions for the care of the aged, for the purpose of adding institutions for the care of the aged as permitted use in the PM2 Professional Mixed Office Park District and establishing bulk regulations and specific standards.
Thank you. We have received written testimony from our good old friend John Arison at 707 Glendon Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland, and Michelle McGregor, 1515 Southeast 17th Street, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I accept into the record a memorandum to the Annapolis City Council from the Planning Commission dated June 24th, 2020. I declare the public hearing on O-18-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Okay, sorry.
And Alderman Gay has one too.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't see your hands up. Alderman Pendel-Charles.
Alderman Gay had his hand up first.
Oh, thank you very much. Just quickly, if the sponsor could in like 60 seconds just explain to me what this was. I was looking at it yesterday, but I really couldn't get a decent understanding of what you were trying to accomplish.
I'm not sure who the sponsor is.
Alderman Savage.
Your question was about the purpose of this?
Yeah, I think when we first talked about it, it was I thought it was for the facilities that were being built along Forest Drive. Is that still the case, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, this doesn't take a decision or it doesn't take a direct decision on any kind of development proposal, but what it does is allow a certain type of use, which would be facility for the aged, to be constructed in two of our zones in the city, PM2, which is around the Safeway and the area around the Bay Village, CVS down in my ward. And so this would allow any developer to submit an application to construct a facility for the aged, institution for the aged. And that would impact my ward. There is somebody who's looking to make that proposal, and I can certainly give you more background after this meeting instead of necessarily during the public comment.
Yeah, I think that we definitely can talk about this offline. I think some of the concern I have with I think what you're calling institution for the care of the aged is that so many beds, so little space. And I think just in that area alone, there's like Bay Ridge, Langton Green, the new one that was just built behind the Starbucks. And then still, I mean, I don't know what's taking place with the what used to be Crystal Springs development. And and that was, surrounded by institutions for the care of the aged. So is that kind of the hope that or is that the trend in what our demographics are shaping out to be in the future, you think? Or I guess I just was really confused where this just came from, but we can talk about it offline.
Yeah, I apologize for closing the public hearing on this. If you guys want to catch up on it, it's still very early on. Is that Alderman Savage? Alderman Pendel?
Yeah, it still has to go to committee and everything as well.
Yeah, I had a similar question as Alderman Gay. I didn't know if there was a development proposal in the works for the district that's in Alderman Savage's ward. I have not seen anything in my ward, so I didn't know if he knew anything that I did not know.
Yeah, no, this is pertaining to a development proposal this would allow them to submit an application because it would allow that particular use. But the project would still have to go through our entire process and public hearing and all that. But in this case, the Bay Village area, which is you have this CVS, the Starbucks, and right behind the CVS is being constructed an assisted living facility. This would be an independent living facility, which would be the sister facility, same management company. They would own both buildings. And I'm trying to respond to my constituents who, down there on Forest Drive or Bay Ridge, it's all about traffic. And this lot was originally supposed to be a restaurant. That's what the zoning, that was the plan was. They haven't been able to get a restaurant. And when you look at the actual traffic numbers, a restaurant would have more of an impact. So I was thinking, well, if my constituents care about traffic, then I should try to allow a use that has less impact. This lot's already cleared, except for a large tree, which they're going to have to protect. But otherwise, there aren't any environmental concerns. So that was my thinking. And so they've already gone out to a lot of the community members and groups to get feedback. And even though they haven't even submitted anything, and they've already been communicating with staff. So this and believe me, I'm really wary about development, but this kind of seemed like I'm trying to respond to my constituents.
Well, I just want to bring one piece of information to you since I'm a little bit older than you are. I can basically describe to you what goes on in an assisted living on a day-by-day, hour-by-hour basis. And the last thing you want is an 89-year-old man visiting his 87-year-old wife in assisted living, and the 17-year-old granddaughter comes to visit. You have a potential traffic nightmare when it comes to that. So just to kind of put a bug in your ear when it comes to traffic, and I'm not saying older people aren't good drivers, that's not my point, but I've been there and I've seen that. And that's some of the arguments I've indicated to those developers who have come to me. And public safety is top on my list. And like I said, if you have an 89-year-old coming to see the 87-year-old and the 17-year-old granddaughter who just got her license, you've got a potential for some challenges when it comes to traffic and public safety. So just a word to the wise.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is 02420 for public hearing, deadline for absentee ballots for the purpose of changing the deadline for the timeliness of absentee ballots for City of Annapolis elections.
We have received no testimony in this. I declare the public hearing on 0-24-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda for public hearing is 02520, conveyance of city-owned rights-of-way in Newtown 20.
And again, we have not received any public testimony on this. Very important. I declare the public hearing on 0-2520 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present next item on the agenda.
The next item is 02620, rent increases during state of emergency prohibited for the purpose of prohibiting certain rent increases during state of emergency and generally related to rent increase prohibition.
Alderman Gay.
I have a question for the city attorney. After this is closed in public hearing, is this scheduled to be sent to an individual committee or voted on?
Not sure. Jacqueline, where are we on this one? I think it's going to get sent to a committee because
yes, it goes to rules.
It's going to go to rules. Yeah.
Okay, that's thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
Who was that? Sorry, Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, this is on the consent calendar. Is it not?
No, it's just a public hearing still.
I know, but is it not on the agenda for later on in the consent calendar?
Not tonight.
It is supposed to come off and be voted on tonight.
That was my thought. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
Due to the nature of the bill.
I checked earlier and it is supposed to come off the consent calendar.
So, Mr. City Attorney, should that have been pulled out in the beginning?
Not on the consent calendar.
See it on the consent calendar, sir.
It is on page 12 on my agenda.
There is no page 12.
Of today's agenda?
Yeah.
There's no page 12.
026 is not on the consent calendar, ma'am.
It's 02520 is what they're speaking of.
I'm talking about 02520. Yes.
But we're on.
Isn't that what we're talking about?
No, we're talking about 02620 rent increases.
Okay.
25 was a conveyance of city-owned rights of way. That was the one public hearing closed.
I thought that had to be done by August, though, so that they could go with the demolition.
And you are correct, Alderman Gay. And so that's why I thought that's what we were talking about, 025. So I would like to pull 02520 off the consent calendar.
That's what I was asking. Should this have been done on the first, Regina? When we get there, okay?
So we're still on 02620, sir?
No testimony received on that. I declare the public hearing on 0-2620 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
The next item is 02720 for public hearing, other excluded service employees. For the purpose of providing policies and practices concerning other excluded service employees, including full-time, temporary, and grant funded, providing definitions and generally relating to contractual employees.
There's no testimony received by the city. I declare the public hearing on 0-2720 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is 02820, parking permit display. For the purpose of requiring that a residential parking permit must be visibly displayed on the vehicle to which it is issued.
There is no testimony again on parking. I'm surprised. I declare the public hearing on 0-28-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is 03020, issuance of general obligation bonds and bond anticipation notes for the purpose of authorizing and empowering the city of Annapolis to issue and sell upon its full faith and credit, one or more series of general obligation bonds in the aggregate amount of $24,278,662, etc.
Thank you for not reading all of that. No testimony received. I declare the public hearing on 0-30-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is R3420, Community Development Block Grant Program 2020, Amended Citizen Participation Plan for the purpose of adopting an amended citizen participation plan as it relates to the administration of the community planning and development programs funded by the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
No testimony has been received again. I declare the public hearing on R-34-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item agenda.
The next item on the agenda is business and miscellaneous items, supplemental appropriation SA 121.
I'd entertain a motion to approve SA-1-21.
Public hearing. Are we on public hearing?
Mr. City Attorney?
We just finished public hearing.
It's business and miscellaneous.
We just finished public hearing. We're on business and miscellaneous now, yes.
I'll move SA 121.
Second.
Second.
Just quick question.
Yes, Alderman Attorney?
Yeah, I don't know if Jody's on the meeting, but I was just confused. The $3,197,333, is that left to spend or is that has been spent?
So that is a combination of what's left to spend from the amount that we appropriated back in June for FY 2020. We didn't get that all, the whole 2 million spent, plus the 2,250,000 from the 4 million that we had not appropriated for FY 2020. Plus the other grants are on there too. The other CARES related grants that came in the separate pieces, that's on there too for FY 21.
Okay, thank you.
Got a second on that? Any more discussion? All those in favour with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
Big aye.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, approval of the consent calendar.
Okay, you're not going to read that out. Alderman Annette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to withdraw 03419 from the consent calendar and reschedule it for the legislative agenda on the 14th of September.
Thank you, Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to make a general point that I think we should revisit the, this is the first time I think we've put legislation on second reader on the consent that has amendments. Usually I think in the past we've only put second readers if they don't have amendments, right. Just because I think, especially in this case, I know with 3419, we have a number of amendments we wanted to discuss with the council and give our committee reports. So, I think it also came up with the ADU legislation, the same issue, just being on there with amendments. So, I don't know. I personally would like to see us create a policy for this in the future.
Thank you, Alderman Arnett.
I'd like to second that sentiment. I pulled out the consent calendar legislation. I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, it says approval with minor modifications. I think a lot of these amendments, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pull 3419. They're not minor amendments, they're fairly significant. And when it talks about what goes on the consent calendar 2-16-055, item 2, items of business including legislation that has received recommendation or approval with minor modifications from council's standing committees. I know that that's probably a matter of interpretation for the staff in setting up the schedule, but I think it's pretty clear when something is uncontroversial, has little or no amendments, that that's something that certainly is eligible for the consent committee. But when you have legislation that has been through a long process, has many amendments or even just a few, but they're significant, I think we should try to keep those on the legislative agenda. And I see Jacqueline has been trying to get in to talk to us now for quite a few minutes, so maybe we ought to let her speak.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Yeah, I just want to mention that Alderman Arnett, July 13th, you postponed this 03419 to the 27th, and this is the only place we could put it on the agenda under consent calendar.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but then I thought the city manager the city attorney told us in our briefing, the work session, that things that were postponed, that were legislative, would just automatically get moved forward to the 14th of September, the next legislative session. As the city attorney said, this is a new process we're trying to work our way through, and I certainly don't mean to be critical. I'm happy that you were trying to dispatch it, but I wanted to pull it off because I think, first of all, I'm still getting some questions about it, but secondly, it's an important piece of legislation and I think really ought to be in the legislative process rather than the consent calendar. And in fact, like Alderman Savage, I'm really quite uncomfortable about doing legislation on second reader in the consent calendar, to me, it really has to be quite a apparent slam dunk to do it that way. But that's something we probably need to look at refinements in Title II and have a discussion and maybe some amendments to Title II.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson?
Yes, I'd like to remove 03919 from the consent calendar, as well as 025.
03919 was removed from the consent calendar already.
I thought he said 034. But okay, 025 is the other one I'd like to remove from the consent calendar.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended. Second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderman Tierney?
I'm frightfully saying yes.
Alderman Payon? Let's see. Alderman Payon? Don't even say. Okay. Alderman Pendell Charles?
Aye.
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
The consent calendar has been approved.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, I'm going to leave you to work this out because I think we're skipping over all the deputy city manager stuff. Is that right?
Yes. The legislative action section that was added had 03919, 03419. No, I'm sorry. 02520. Just those two items. 03419 was moved to September, and Alderman Finlayson has 03919 before you and 02520 for legislative action. So the next item would be 03919.
Accessory dwelling units.
Point of information, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to know, I've gone back to the agenda for the rules in city government, which has amendments 1 through 5, but where is it that we actually go tonight? Because I know there's at least amendments through Amendment 11. Where do we actually go to find the current status with all of the proposed amendments for this legislation?
Jacqueline, can you tell us where?
The amendments are attached to the legislation on this agenda. All of them.
All right, let me. So they are, thank you. That answers my question.
So, Alderman Finlayson?
Yes, I think Alderman Arnett is asking where the rules committee's votes on these are. Alderman Arnett, is that what you're asking? Or do you have those? I'm
not sure exactly what I have, but I think Jacqueline is pointed us. I'm assuming that what we're seeing through Amendment 11 is the current status. I do know when we get to my amendments that there were further comments from the Office of Law that are not reflected there. City Attorney Leonard pointed out that there was a better way to do the tax credits, but I don't have any language on that. But I'm assuming that this is the up-to-date status of all the amendments and that we will begin the process of going through the amendments. The Rules Committee did approve the amendments 1 through 5 that were offered by Alderman Rodriguez, I believe, and we certainly discussed my amendments 6 through 8. There's new amendments that have come in subsequent to any committee hearings.
May I clarify, the Rules Committee voted favorably for 1 through 7.
Sorry,
and I'm still looking for the changes.
Point of information.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
But we don't even have a motion yet.
It's not on the floor.
It's not on the floor.
Someone has to move it.
Yes, before we get on the floor, talk about it.
Can I read my invocation again?
Caught me napping with that one.
My confusion.
So can I just get the city attorney just to sort of speak to this for a second? There are so many amendments here. Obviously, this is substantive. We are going to be debating this a long time here in public. So
substantive by design.
yeah. Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, I mean, if my thoughts on this is that there are so many amendments that we probably have very little consensus on exactly what 03919 is attempting to do. And I recommend starting over with this and putting it into the format where at least all of the amendments, and we can get some consensus so that, because right now you have to vote on each amendment and they're going in different directions with respect to 03919. I think there will be a lot of sorting out that the Office of Law will have to do in order to make this actually something that's enforceable at this point. So that's our common recommendation.
Alderman Gay?
Yeah, this is just so unfortunate that we've come to this point with legislation that would have been beneficial to our communities. And I thank, last minute efforts to include 4 or 5 amendments at the last minute when the sponsor of these amendments were in attendance at the Rules Committee meeting and could have introduced them prior to. Is just an example of, some colleagues who know the process. I can't be mad at them for knowing the process and for pulling out the political tricks. But I think that with, conflicting amendments, personal recommendations to the text in these amendments, some of them not factual. I don't want to speak for I don't want to speak for the other sponsors, but it probably would be best at some point to come back with a more liberal council in the next year and attempt to push this through. So at this point, I probably would support some postponement or whatever is necessary because this is just crazy. And, we've already watered it down as much as we could. I definitely do think that we need to come back with a fresh crew to kind of re-energize this conversation.
Alderman Savage and Alderman Pendell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As one of the, 2 remaining sponsors on this, I give my colleagues the benefit of the doubt. I do think that they're simply trying to adjust this to be something that they could vote for. Although, while I do think this has been on the books for a while, I understand it is a very complicated piece of legislation, but it is kind of getting late in the process. But all that said, again, as one of the sponsors, there's no real reason to rush this one. I think we certainly have time to work on this more. But I do see, and I think we really don't have a choice because with these, unless we just vote down these amendments. But I do want to be respectful to my colleagues and at least have a discussion about these amendments instead of just voting them down. But it does look like they contradict each other potentially. They all do the same, are trying to do the same thing, adjust the same chart. And so I think it's going to take some time to see if there's a conflict.
Alderwoman Pindell Charles and Alderwoman Tierney, and then Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Gay, with all due respect, I take offense to your statement about political tricks. I don't have enough time in the day. I got enough to do without going through political tricks. I don't really indulge myself in that. That's number one. And number two, I take offense on behalf of the Greater Parole Community Association Incorporated. I believe you had a discussion and some photographs were shown to you recently about the issues that we have in Ward 3. So they're not up to any political tricks either. I don't have time for that. Frankly, I don't. Thank you.
When, Ms. Mayor, I respond, when fact sheets are sent out on behalf of the Greater Parole Association with incorrect information to a association that you say has 454 members, that is reckless. And I'm not blaming you as the individual alderperson, because if a constituent in my ward were to do something like that, I obviously wouldn't be able to control it. But I think it is reckless to allow organizations and to defend organizations that are sending out inaccurate information. I would have personally responded to the president of that organization and said, this is not correct. It is dangerous to send out this information. Please send out a revised version of it. I'm not trying to disrespect you or any organization, but just bring truth. I mean, that's all. I don't want this to be at a animosity between us for just trying to bring out the truth.
Alderman Gay, I sent you an email, and what I said was, if you've got a problem with them, then you ask them to come to their meeting and you all work it out and talk about what it was. I believe one of my colleagues on the council, and I won't give a name, indicated what exactly was the problem. And I never saw a response from you. So political tricks or inaccurate information, then you come to the group yourself and you ask them about it. Don't involve me in this. I'm not into that. I don't have time for it. Thank you.
I don't represent Ward 3, so I can't control what they do. I'm sorry.
It has nothing to do with that. We've invited Alderman Rodriguez to our meetings.
Can we get order? Order.
To the
Mr. Lyles wants to do that.
I'm just going to...
And that has nothing to do with whether you represent them or not. Not at all. Everybody is free to ask to come and be a part of the meeting.
Colleagues, give their please.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney.
Yeah, you have two things happening right now. All of the council members, we do not have a motion for 03919. So, Mr. Mayor, you may want to either call for a motion and then start debate. It seems like we're debating it before a motion has been seconded and it's on the floor for that. And secondly, we may want to remind our participants to direct their comments to the chair so that the meeting can remain in good order.
So I'm going to get a motion to get it on the floor. Is there another way out of it?
Yep, Mr. Mayor.
If there's no motion or no second, it would die here.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
As again, one of the two remaining sponsors, I'd like to just make a motion to postpone until the first meeting in September. I do want to give my colleagues the respect to time to go over their amendments. I would not be prepared to vote on their amendments because, again, they all look very similar to me. And I think I would also need some guidance from law office in terms of if there are conflicts between the amendments. I don't know if we've had, because I don't know how long these were posted. I'm not sure we've had time. So anyway, that'd be my motion to postpone it to the first meeting.
Second that motion. And I would like to speak whenever it's appropriate.
Okay, so I had Alderman Tierney up first, then Alderman Rodriguez, and then I'll come back to you, Alderman Arnett.
Thank you.
Thank you. Guilty. Guilty as charged. I assumed that this was going to be voted on tonight, so I amended it to suit the constituents that I serve, and I suspect that my colleagues did the same. And what that indicated was that this has a different application in each ward, and we cannot make it ward specific. So we do have to come together and figure out what does affordable housing mean. And I think that addresses what I think of as the missing middle. And I have to commend, I have to commend my colleague, Alderman Gay, because I attended the Affordable Housing Task Force, and it was an array of talent and knowledge and resources. And I think this is a great topic to have on that committee. And again, this is the cart before the horse. If we had voted on it tonight, when we had set up a task force with what Alderman Gay, about 35 people. So I think we should look forward to some more discussions on how we can make this a citywide application and serve affordable housing priorities in each ward. I, for one, am lacking affordable housing in Ward 1. My husband and I are looking for a house in Ward 1, and it demonstrated to me that you have to be making a lot of money to be an alderman in Ward 1. So that's a big issue. So I don't mean to digress, but we really need to relook at affordable housing across the city.
Thank you, Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to, out the bat, based on further discussion with some of my colleagues and from different organizations and so forth, I support the postponement. Obviously, I would have looked forward to a favorable vote on this evening. I believe and will always continue to believe that accessory dwelling units are one of the most important tools today for housing affordability. Again, not just to increase the affordable housing stock and also make Annapolis and every community a more inclusive community, but also assist in home ownership through additional revenue streams. So they're proven models, as we've discussed in committees and so forth across the nation. I'm grateful to the co-sponsors, Alderman Savage, Alderman Gay, for this legislation. I hope when I come back to visit that there'll be ADUs, legal ADUs in place in the community. But I also want to thank the Planning Commission and the community organizations that have spoken out, because I think with further dialogue and revisiting this, it'll make it a much stronger and better piece of legislation to meet the intents and the needs of the community. So I just want to express my gratitude and the furtherance of this important discussion of fair housing, of affordable housing. And I know Annapolis and the people that represented will continue to do the right thing on this front. Thank you.
So we'll have Alderman Pendle Charles and Alderman Gay, and then Alderman Arnett. Come on, you always do that, Ross. Oh, and Sheila after that, sorry.
In many ways, I echo what Alderman Rodriguez has said. I don't think anyone has any problem with affordable housing. I think if it's done, and we know if it's done correctly, what I did indicate to the Greater Parole Community Association is that they have input in what may be put forth or put their 2 cents worth in. I continue to request that if Alderman Gay has an issue with what they are doing, that they will certainly welcome you to their executive leadership team meeting so this all can be worked out. We had extended the same invitation to Alderman Rodriguez about a year ago, but the times kind of got a little confusing. Nothing on his part, but they were most willing to have him come to their meeting to talk about this legislation. And I can't do it on their behalf, but I'm sure they would welcome you as well. And that was my suggestion to them. The other thing is, if this does get postponed until September, then I would ask that this be referred to the Public Safety Committee, and that the letter that they have put forth, the Greater Parole Community Association, does indicate some public safety issues as well. So thank you very much. And thank you, Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Alderman Gay.
I will allow Ross to speak before me. He did have his hand up prior to me.
Oh, you.
Thank you, Alderman Gay. First of all, I want to thank. Alderman Savage, for your decorum, consideration, and courtesy. I would not like to see this legislation withdrawn. I think we're making great progress. I'm sorry my colleague from Ward 6 doesn't share that view. And I think that we still can move it forward. But I also do want to take this time to thank Alderman Rodriguez. First of all, I think his 5 amendments were very responsive to the Planning Commission. And I do think they moved the ball forward. I understand your desire to have seen this pass tonight because it is one of your legacy pieces of information, but I think you're leaving quite a legacy anyway. You don't need this to have people remember you with warm regard, and we will miss you. You bring to the council a perspective that is much needed, and I hope we can fill that with your successor. But also, I share a lot of your ideals and goals. I might not get there as fast as you get there. I'm a slow old man, sorry about that. But I do really appreciate your service, and particularly on this. And I do think, I fervently believe in the need for affordable housing. I will not back away from that. And maybe that's a going away present for me to you. Is my pledge that we do need to work on this and make it happen in the city of Annapolis.
Thank you.
Alderman Finlayson was next.
Thank you. I kind of want to echo what Alderman Arnett has just said. Alderman Rodriguez, I want to say thank you for coming back with the amendments to address the concerns from the Planning Commission and for trying to compromise to get us to a good place. You know, I too have worked for not public housing, but workforce housing and affordable housing for many years at the county level as well as the city. And this is a step, and it's a step that we need, and we have to get it right. So I just want to say thank you, your professionalism, your ability to compromise to get to a good place is something I truly appreciate. And once it's all said and done, we'll still call it the Rodriguez Amendment. So it's all good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alderman Payan has this. Oh, sorry, Alderman Gay was next, and then Alderman Payan. Sorry.
Yeah, Alderman Rodriguez, I am so sorry that we couldn't get this over the line for you. It's crazy. You know, as mentioned by many people, organizations, teams, groups have been working on this for over a year. And to have it come to this halt and for our colleagues to still want to move it through the process so slow, it is shocking to me. And it's hurtful. I'm sorry that we could not get this done for you. And I think that, you know, just words and dialogue of appreciation for affordable housing is not enough. Our yes vote to make a commitment to affordable housing would have been enough. And like I said in the beginning, now speaking directly to the constituents, I think that in order to get us over the hump of affordable housing, in order for us to, you know, really change the landscape of the city of Annapolis and to get us on the right track to making this a successful town for young families, for young people, for people to put their roots here and really live to that dream. As Alderwoman Tierney mentioned, as an alder person, she can't even live in her own ward. I can't live in my own ward. We're all struggling out here. You know, it's sad. We really need to
I don't want to buy Bill Kardashian's house. That's all.
Well, we just need to really make some, you know, commitments to affordable housing. And I think that needs to be done, and the call needs to be made from the ballot box. So I think that's where we stand now. So thank you.
Sorry, Alderman Payan. Thank you, Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been sitting here listening to all the thank yous, and I tried to think of one that I could use. And I'd like to thank my parents, without whom I wouldn't be here tonight. But having said that, I don't think this has been a wasted effort on the part of anybody, whether you're for or against this. We happen to be on opposing sides on this. When I think of Alderman Gay and Alderman Rodriguez. However, there are many things that have been brought out that I think can be used and can be used in the immediate future. One of the reasons why this has taken so long to go through is that in order to become law, you've got to convince 5 people that this is the way to go. And whether you would have been successful in doing that tonight, I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. And it'll, enable us, serve as something to work on, I think, in the very near future. Not months, not years down the road, but I think much sooner than that. And we'll take it from there. So I did come up with something to thank people for. Thank you for your hard work on this. I think it will pay off in some way or another. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to postpone this. What year would you like to postpone it to, Alderman Savage?
Preferably after November of 2021.
Oh. Okay. So all those in favor of a postponement with a show of hands, please. Did you give a date to us? I'm sorry.
The date is September, the September regular meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the postponement with a show of hands say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda for consideration by the council is 02520.
Move approval of 02520.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, Regina? All those in favor with a show of hands say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Move approval on third reader.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, can we have just a minute? I'm having a little bit of difficulty finding this on my Granicus. My Granicus is very small. Which one are we on? What's the number?
02520.
We're doing Newtown.
Newtown?
Thank you.
This is conveying a street so that they can redevelop the property.
Oh, yes. Thank you. And thank you for no wisecracks, guys.
Okay, on third reader, we need a roll call.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Yes.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
That's the end of the regular agenda, Mr. Mayor.
We didn't do that.
We're on to
Regina has her hand up.
sorry, Regina.
I don't think we took a vote on 034. And just for clarification purposes, on your agenda, if you look at the script that I made for you today, 02320 was adopted on the consent calendar with a Buckley amendment because it was not pulled off. So just for clarification purposes, that was adopted.
02320.
Yeah, 023.
Thank you.
What is that?
That is the payment for city services.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Payment for city services.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't think we got to that yet.
I don't see it.
I don't see it on the agenda.
Mr.
Lyles?
Yeah, it's on the consent agenda. Basically what it is to allow the city to charge for use of credit cards. Pass through that fee, basically, to individuals, a convenience fee.
So that's done because it was on the consent calendar?
Yes, it was not removed.
Okay.
And 034 was moved by Alderman Arnett to the natural legislative action date of September.
Did he get a second?
He didn't need a second because it's going to the next legislative action section.
Second.
Jody has a hand up.
I just wanted to clarify that it's not just the credit card fee. There were a couple other things like a check for payment for insufficient funds fee, and I was trying to pull down. There's a third one in there too. Penalty for late sewer service. There were 3 items in that 2020.
And it was discussed at the Finance Committee, and we recommended favorably.
So, Mr. Lyles, the agenda is complete? No?
It is, sir.
All right. Alderwoman Pendell-Charles.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, just want to make sure, Madam Clerk, that you referred 03919 to the Public Safety Committee for our September meeting.
I did.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anything else for good order, Alderman Gay?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to shout out two things. One, I just want to say the Breonna Taylor mural was postponed. Dedication was postponed yesterday. Due to the concerns of overcrowding under the current provisions from the county executive. So we look forward to rescheduling that. And then secondly, just a shout out to Keanu, Kyria, and Harold. We had raised some money from our protest and marches to assist with that. And so we purchased food for the event yesterday, which would have been yesterday, $955 in food. And we had nothing to do with it. So we ended up donating it to Bay Ridge Gardens today. So shout out to Miss Phyllis for being willing to coordinate with us. She came and picked it up this morning, and we were able to feed a lot of families during this pandemic. So that shout out to those guys for working hard on that.
We thank everybody so much. Alderwoman Finlayson has a hand up, and then Alderwoman Tierney, then Alderman Arnett.
Yes, 2 things. One, an announcement on the town hall on Wednesday evening. It's round 2 of Where Do We Go From Here? Our speakers this time will be Alderman Arnett, Alderman Savage, Jeff McCree from the Education Commission, Ms. Nas from the Delta Sigma Theta, and Rob Levitt, from Creating Communities. So please join us 6:30 on Wednesday. And the second announcement is a real thank you to Justin and those at Latitude 38 for the second time in probably 4 days. They had a tremendous food giveaway. I joined them last Friday when they gave away 2,000 kits, milk-related kits that would serve 5 people for 5 days. And today we gave away vegetables, and the pizza guy up the street, Lido's, showed up with 50 pizzas, and then they had hot meals. Salisbury steak, I think it was, and some other meals. So another tremendous opportunity. These seem to be coming very quickly, and so we have to work hard to get the word out so our residents can take advantage. So thank you to those folks.
Alderwoman Tierney was next, I think, then Alderman Arnett.
Yeah, two things. I just think we really need to give credit to Julian Jacques and his incredible talent. We're very lucky to have him. The video this morning was just incredible. It's a great resource, and we're very fortunate. And Alderwoman Finlayson sort of stole my thunder on Justin Schaffner. I know he was a little upset with me, but we came to a reconciliation. He understood I've been busy, but Friday I got to ride in a fire truck when he was delivering. I mean, it was the milk day, as Sheila said. It was just amazing to see that quantity of milk. And then also today, the vegetables, and offering free haircuts under the pandemic. So a shout out to him. He's on, he gives us short notice. So Sheila's right. We really have to keep up with him because he does this several times, at least several times a month. Thanks.
Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we gave some kudos to Alderman Rodriguez earlier, but I do think that we should end this meeting with our mutual thanks for his service. I did want to remind him, I looked at the code, and it's actually not a requirement that you be a resident in the city to continue representing your ward. So you can join us via Zoom from Oregon.
He's in Portland tonight.
You can answer your emails and have phone calls with your constituents and come back in September and continue the work on the ADUs. But I do want to thank you for your service. I wish we were all together in the council chambers and that we could have a toast of some sort and some sweets to celebrate. Unfortunately, the virus hurts that part of our lives also and continues to, but certainly don't want you to leave without hearing our heartfelt thanks.
We're definitely going to give Mark the last word, but Alderman Gay? Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, Roz, if you want to set up those drinks, I can coordinate that for us.
You're not old enough to buy.
I'll get the wings.
Alderman Savage has his hand up.
Yeah, just to echo Alderman Arnett's comments, Alderman Rodriguez, Mark, it's been a pleasure working with you, and I've learned an incredible deal from you, not only in terms of policy, but in terms of your behavior, in terms of you often always the guy to try to find the middle ground, but you always stand up very vigorously to do what's right. And so, I've enjoyed our time together. I hope we get to see you again out in Portland. And no, I'm not leaving the council. But anyway, good luck to you out there, and hope to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm just going to say a big thank you. You broke glass ceilings. You produced legislation that have been considered in this city before. So you are going to be sadly missed. I like what Ross said. You can come into the next council meeting wherever you are. You bring a lot. But let me just leave the last word to you, Alderman Rodriguez.
I think Alderwoman Pindosa.
I just want to ditto everything everybody said. All the best to you. God bless you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yep. Good luck to you, Mark. Good
thanks
luck.
For letting us. Thanks for winning the triathlon.
I'm happy the tallest guy on the council now. Thank you.
Oh, I just want to. I mean, I didn't have anything prepared, but
we'll just keep praising you.
I just want to leave with saying, there's still work to do, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have served Ward 5 in the city of Annapolis over the last few years, and before that in a non-elected capacity. And I just have learned a lot from each and every one of you. And under the leadership and vision that, Gavin provides, it's been an honor to be able to serve the community when you have the support from the leadership like you do, especially in terms of, firsts, whether it's for the immigrant community or the more vulnerable communities. always has been it's been a blessing to be able to just have that extra wind in your sails when especially when you're going on a headwind against things that have operated the way they have, and not by malintent of any individuals, because I believe as a community, everyone wants every single family to do better, because that's when we will ultimately thrive. And Annapolis will always be home, families here, and I'm just super grateful that I've had this chance. And again, we want to thank each and every one of you as lifelong friends and colleagues. The city is in great hands. The passion that you carry for each and every one of the residents and the community is incredible. Even if people don't always agree. And I will, I was going to say, joke, I was looking forward to this last public comment, but I really wasn't. So I was told that only one person signed up. Just kidding. But
Here.
Okay, Alderman Pion, we need a motion.
Wait, I want to close
I
this
move
out.
that we adjourn.
We need 10 seconds of this classic. You have to listen to It's So Hard to Say Goodbye by Boyz II Men. I mean, it's a sad day.
That's awesome. All right.
I still want to adopt you, Mark.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
All those in favor, and say goodbye to Mark. We love you, buddy. See you, man. Cheers.
Love you.
Bye, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
Be safe.
Adjourned.